we're running a session on dose frequency settings and prescribing of infrequent medications. Just thought it was timely. We do get a few questions through the help desk about these topics, but also with current chart reviews and so a lot of medication prescriptions being looked at. I thought it was a good idea to touch on this to make sure that facilities have got these settings set up because it does significantly help your prescribers when they're wanting to prescribe new medications. So I will share my screen to start with. And can I get some feedback? Everyone can see the screen of the homepage there of my Lee Care training site?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. No worries. So to be able to set up dose frequency settings, you do need to have the permission. But before I show you what that is, I just wanted to open up a prescription to show you how it reflects once it's set up on the prescription form, so you can understand the impact that that has on doctors when they're prescribing. I'm just going to turn my screen off while I'm sharing the screen. Stay with me. So we're just going to leave it on. Okay, so when a doctor is prescribing a medicine, any kind, on a prescription form, the preset dose frequency settings are available here. So whatever settings you have set up in your medication master will be available here for the doctor to choose from. As a training site, we have quite a few, and we've also got some quite bizarre and obscure ones just to show the fact that you basically can set up these settings to be very customized to whatever your facility requires. If you've got a random resident on a random med that's quite a weird frequency, you can set it up. While that resident's an inpatient, you can always make the frequency inactive when you no longer need it. But this setting being set up essentially completes this section for whoever's doing the prescribing. So they don't have to fill out both. If they select a frequency here, it auto-populates this section, but it just saves them with one click rather than having to select these different settings here. So when they're prescribing any medication, once they get down to here, if you've got your dose frequency set up, they can select which one they want. It will auto-populate this, including the medication round times. So that's a bonus in itself because A, it just helps the prescriber, they don't have to select them, but B, for yourselves, for your facility, it just helps to guide the doctor to make sure they are selecting the correct round times to fall in line with, facility workflows rather than selecting random times. Now, once they have set it, it's like any default type settings in Lee Care, though, it doesn't mean they're stuck to it. For this particular resident or this particular medicine, whatever they're prescribing, they might say, yeah, happy with the 8 o'clock, but the nighttime dose for this BD, I want it to be 10 o'clock. So they can make the changes if they choose. But that's just how having these settings set up actually impact the prescriber. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. So once you have these set up, or if you already do, obviously the next step is making sure that your GPs and prescribers are aware of it, because there's obviously no point having it there if they're not aware and know how to use it. But feedback from prescribers is, for those who do have it set up and know about it, is that it is very helpful when they're doing their prescribing. So to set up a dose frequency setting in settings under tools, you come in here to your medication management tab. Only senior staff will have access to this, and you simply click on the dose frequency settings. Once you're in here, you can review all the ones you currently have. You can also check previous ones so that inactive ones will come up in case you wanted to make them active again. If you do have previous ones that you want to make active, you can just go into edit details and click on the active, and that will reactivate it. If you want to review your current settings, you may have some too many and you don't want to include them. So you can come in and make it inactive and press save. Once it's inactive in here, it means on the prescription form, when the doctors pick that drop-down box, it will no longer be available for them to choose. But once you're in here, you can check what you have. Potentially you have it. Here's an example of our 6 monthly, which is twice a year. We may have that set up, but we've decided as a facility that we don't give that at 10 o'clock in the morning anymore. We may give it at 11 o'clock, and you can actually just adjust that as well and press save. But if you did want to create a new dose frequency setting, you simply come in with the permission and click add dose frequency setting. You create the name that your facility is familiar with for this particular frequency. So if we just set up one now to be twice a day, every day of every day, and I might put it in as a demo and then put my round times, because this is a demo. I'll select my round times to be both in the PM, just because I'm wanting to set it up now. Once I've put that in, I press save. It then is created, demo, and as a prescriber, when I'm in a resident and wanting to create a prescription, it will automatically be available to populate those times that we've selected. So what we've now created, there is a how-to card that goes through how to do that. So that's already on knowledge base, and it just goes through to explain what I've just demonstrated with you, how to set that up. So you can make them quite very customized depending on particular medications or residents that you may have on particular meds. And we've just created a how-to card also that will be uploaded to knowledge base later today. Just wanted to show it to you with about the top 15 regularly used dose frequency settings, just to give a guide for facilities to know how to set them up. So we've got some pretty regular ones, obviously daily, BD, TDS, QID, and then a Mane early. We have a midday, a Nocte late, weekly, and these are the ones, the more infrequent type frequencies are the ones that the doctors often will start to stumble with. So having these settings set up was very helpful. Alternative days, twice a week, 3 times a week, fortnightly, monthly, 3 monthly, and 6 monthly. So then we have, and these are great ones for people who have palliative care type patients. We have the hourly and 2 hourly meds. So obviously to set that frequency up on a prescription form, it is very easy, but it just means that the doctor has to select the hourly times. So again, having the dose frequency setting set up for these is very helpful. We also have one for continuous and for stat. So that will be uploaded to knowledge base later today for anyone that wants to have a look through and maybe audit what dose preset frequencies that you have in your system at present against what we recommend as regular ones, but also just to have a look how you've set it up as opposed to how we're recommending. So there has been changes and enhancements in the system. So you may have set these frequencies up a while ago when the program was slightly different. So if you are using them, which we recommend, I definitely also recommend today just having a quick review to audit to see that the way you've got it set up is in line with current enhancement and features and the most suitable way to do that. Is there any questions on any of that? I can't see the chat while I'm sharing. Let me just open it. No, nothing in there from anyone. So I just wanted to go on to set up a couple of infrequent medications and go through how you do that, or how your GPs will do that, so that you guys are aware, so that if they're having any queries while they're doing their prescribing, that you're there and able to assist with that. So I'll start with a common medication, your Prolia, a 6-month Prolia. So let me see if Rowan's already on it. So we can come in here to infrequent medications, to prescribe, add the prescription, generic name, no allergies, select my brand. So we come in here to select the brand. Now, reinforcing, but I know we've got some regular faces on, so most of you know, but in this drop-down box, medication packs that are listed that are in normal text means they don't have any default settings in. Medications that are bold means that that brand and pack have default settings set up. So for those that aren't aware, if there's default settings set up, it means that some of the rest of the information is going to be pre-populated to help your prescriber. And we can touch on that also in today's session because the rest of the topic's quite brief. So again, it's about having defaults in, about having information in to make it easy for prescribers. So when you have defaults put in, you can add to your defaults your preset dose frequency settings as well. If I chose a brand that didn't have those selected, you can see that nothing's pre-populated, and I would need to then go through to select the details myself. But when they're pre-populated, and this is a really good one because previously some people had been setting it up as 6 monthly and putting in here once every 6 months. So I'll just show you what that looks like and the reason why we've made some enhancement and recommend the other way. So when you put it in as 6 monthly, the system identifies your months as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the doctor then needs to work out which month is month 1, whether it's March is month 1, etc. Whereas if you put it in through the year, it's twice every year. It does make prescribing easier because I actually get to specify the months and the date of that month that I want the dose due. So the required fields are still required for all of the rest of the prescription. If you're ENRMC, all your required fields, including your reason for prescribing, PBS, and any authority numbers. You can add in here comments at a facility level. You can make a decision if you want infrequent meds to always specify when the last dose was administered. Up to you. If we say the last dose was administered in December 22nd, 2023. So that means if this is a 6 monthly medication, my next dose is due on June 22nd. And then 6 months post that again will be December 22nd. So I do put my dates in. Now with your infrequent medications, there is one extra step that prescribers need to take, and that is to change the start date and time of the prescription to when the dose is next due. So for routine medications, the start date and time is the date that prescription's created. They match up. And if it's a regular daily type medication, you all know that we have the buffer period that establishes whether the medication is going to start today or the following day. But for infrequent medications, because we want it to be given on a specific date, we then change this start date and time to the date that it's due. So this medication is June 22nd. So I scroll through to June 22nd at 11 a.m. Once I've updated that, I can press save. I'll get my normal confirmation. Again, this script itself cannot run across 2 chart periods under ENRMC. So for those with ENRMC, this will restrict that. And it's saying that this prescription will run to the end of 31st of August because the actual script, that's when it will run until, but it's down to start on the 22nd of June because that's when the dose is due. So because that script start date when the dose is due is in the next chart period, when we come to do our chart review, this medication will need to be re-prescribed for the following chart period. Sorry, it won't need to be because the start date of the script is already identified as the 26th of June. So when I'm pressing chart review, the Prolia is coming up as not needing to be adjusted because it's already start date is past the next chart period. So any questions about that? Not at the moment. I'll go through one more. To do a B12, it's already got it. So another infrequent med, add my prescription. So this medication I may want to give once every 3 months. So I go through and complete my sections. This is where your dose frequency settings are great as well for medications that don't have defaults. And I can then come down and say that I want this to be given 4 times a year. So again, because it's 3 monthly, but I've chosen how many times a year, it means I'm able to identify the exact dates that I want the medication to be given. So we can choose wherever we would like, June 1st. Yeah. And March 1st. Any streamlines would be there for ENRMC, and I select save. Duration can't be empty. Oh, apologies, hadn't selected that. So this is why you have to change your start date and time. So when I'm prescribing this now for June 1st, and we are currently in chart period that is the 1st of January to the 30th of April, there is no dose due in this current date range. So once I adjust this to when the dose is due, which is the 1st. So this is another great thing with these alerts when the prescription is not completed correctly, how the system won't let you save to make sure that it's completed correctly. So once I've updated that, I will be able to save it, get my confirmation, and I can press save. And again, this infrequent medication is coming up as an active prescription. So it's here in your prescription management page to be visualized. You can see today is the date I've ordered it, but you can see clearly that it's not due to be given to the 1st of June, similarly to this one, the 22nd of June. So what that looks like on your medication chart, I'll just show you. So previously, some of you may know that on the medication chart, until the medicine was due, you weren't able to see it on the medication chart. So we've taken some feedback and updated that. So these prescriptions are now still here visible on your medication chart. It's just when there's no dose due in this dose range, there'll be no administration type boxes or availability. So as we scroll through over the next couple of months, we'll get to the date range where the medication will be due, you can see that the administration availability pops up. So on your administration page for due meds, it will be there, and you'll be able to administer it on the due date. But it remains on the medication chart so that you can see it until it's in its dose due range. And that's the same for the pharmacy when they're viewing. They view your medication chart for printing. So I'm choosing my current date range, show report for Rowan. Let's give it a minute to fully generate. This is as your pharmacist is looking at this to get all their information for this resident for their dispensing and claiming. They can see that these medications have been added. So I've added this, and the start date is the 1st of June to the 1st of June because there's only one dose due. So they know that they don't need, it's an infrequent medication. They know that they will get their periodic medication alert to dispense, but when they're looking at this chart, they can still see, even though that a dose isn't due, they can still see when the dose is going to be due. For both of these, there's the 26th of June, so they know when to administer, but they can have this prepared ready in their dispensing software as well. So the biggest thing with infrequent medications is about changing the start date and time of the prescription to the start date and time of when the next dose is due for that medication. Any questions about that? No? So while we're here, I just wanted to talk briefly about defaults as well. So you already saw the dose frequency settings can be included in the defaults that you set up for your medications. So in your tools, if you have permission to make changes to your medication master, your regularly used medications that are in your MIMS, you can go in and add defaults too. So I'll pick a really common one, and it seems to be one you care like to use for examples. But in here, you can add defaults to these medications. Now, when you're looking at your meds master to see if a med has defaults, you can see it is ticked here if they do, and you can see some of these digoxins already have defaults set up and some of them don't. So if I wanted to add defaults for particular brands, you can go in and add those. So you simply click on edit defaults, and then what's in there now I can change, or if there was nothing, I can go in and edit. And so you can see that the actual times aren't included in your default. So that's why it's great if you have these preset frequencies, when you select those, rather than just adding in manually 2 times 1 every day, again, using your preset frequencies is beneficial, because when the doctor selects this, then the times are also pre-populated. If you in your defaults don't use your preset frequencies and put 2 times per day manually, then when the doctor picks this default medication on the prescription form, the 2 time slots for the rounds will be there because it's 2 times per day, but the doctor will manually need to add the times still. So when you're adding defaults to your medications manually, any preset frequencies that are relevant for that medication, I definitely recommend putting in. Again, you won't see the times here, but when you select this medication with the set defaults, all of this medication that I've put up will come up there. If you wanted at a facility level to have a particular, comment for this medicine for all prescriptions, you can add that in. If this was, a different type or form, you can make those changes, but you can put this information in here. So this is digoxin, it's the Lenoxin 250. So once I press save, when I come to my resident and prescribing this medication, so the generic name is bold as well, so the doctor knows already, yep, this medicine's got some defaults. And then in here, the brand names with those defaults now come up. So this is the one we've just done, the Lenoxin 250. So all that information was there. And again, because this was chosen, not just this setting, the times of my facility rounds auto-populate as well. Reason for prescribing is never included in defaults. Obviously, that's a clinical decision and it's based solely, independently on every resident that it's prescribed for. That's why that's not selected. And whether it's PBS or what sort of benefit also needs to be still selected. But this information can be put in by anyone at your facility with the permission. But also I wanted to use this opportunity to let you guys know that while you can add as many manual defaults as you like, LeCare now has a default upload tool where we have over 2,700 regularly used medications that are used in aged care available to be uploaded as a complimentary script that we can run into your system, where it will upload the defaults for those 2,700 medications. So adding in already their form, their route, unit of measure, and things like that. So if anyone is interested in having that default tool uploaded to your system, please reach out to help desk or myself, and we can look at doing that for you. If you're happy with the list we've got, we can upload that. If you had wanted to have a look at it first, and some facilities are choosing to double check, do an audit with their pharmacy as to their top 200 regular medications, and then they may want some extra medicines added, we can also do that if you like. But that complimentary script is available for anybody who's interested. And again, it's about just having as much information populated to help your GPs with their prescribing as possible. So happy to talk to anyone who's interested in that as well. Any questions from anybody? Nothing in the chat today.
Sharon, is it possible anywhere to, when you're prescribing a DDA, that it automatically defaults to post-summit?
Not at the moment. So a lot of medications can be PBS or PBS, so it depends on what benefit the prescriber is giving to that resident. But we are looking at potentially, if PBS is attached to that medicine, that will auto-populate when it's prescribed, but then it will still be up to the prescriber. Just because the medicine can be PBS prescribed doesn't mean that that resident is entitled to it, if that makes sense. So then there would still need to be some manual changes. Potentially it would still need to be checked. But in this tooltip, I'll just show you. In this tooltip now, with our current, when you select a medication, can you guys see it doesn't always pop up in the screen sharing, the extra tooltip that's coming up that's giving the dispensing quantity and the MIMS code? Is that visual to you guys?
Yes, it is.
Yep. So paracetamol was probably a bad one because it doesn't have the extra information. So in this tooltip, whether it's a restricted medicine or whether there's and what the maximum dose is, potentially if it requires an authority code, this one says authority required. We are having that extra information, and also in there is the PBS item number so that you will know, but we are looking at having in there whether it is the medication is best selected as PBS or RPBS, and that will help guide prescribers so that they know which one to select for the resident based on their benefit scheme. I hope that answers your question, Bernadette.
I was wondering more about like Schedule 8 drugs for co-signing on the medication chart.
Oh, for co-signing, my apologies. I thought you were talking about DVA RPBS medications. No, so you're talking about
sorry, I'm talking about so that it automatically, if you prescribe, say, endone, as you just had up, that it automatically says this needs to be co-signed.
Okay, yeah. All right. So at the moment, I'll just go through in case others aren't aware. Schedule 8 medications, yeah, it is facility-based, which medications need co-signing and which don't. There are some guidelines, but it's not a regulation as such, so that's why it's been allowed to be customised at a facility level, but I understand what you're saying. So this medication, it's 3 weeks, it's a restricted drug. Once I prescribe this, it is there it is. There is the medication I've just prescribed. At a facility level, if I want this to be co-signed, someone now has to come in, and most facilities allocate it to a senior staff member or a facility manager, not the doctors, and it has to be ticked off here or on the medication chart for co-sign. But that does need to be actioned individually per prescription at the moment. What you've just asked for, Bernadette, I can tell you we have an enhancement coming so that in your medications master, see this column here that says nurse, we're looking at adding an extra column here that will say co-sign. If you tick it here in your med master, that will mean that when the doctor prescribes it, it will automatically be ticked for that prescription. So there will still be some manual setup because, again, different facilities have different medications that their internal policies require co-signing for, but you will be able to do the initial setup at the medication management level so that, yes, when prescribing, that will automatically be ticked for that particular prescription.
Thank you.
So
that's great.
Yeah, so that's coming this year. Can't give you a more up-to-date ETA on that, but keep your eye out for release notes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is coming.
Okay, thank you. That does answer my question.
Mark has asked if it will be just for EN and RN or both, or just EN or RN.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mark, what was that in relation to the co-signing? Yeah, so again, different facilities have different policies, which is again why we can't enforce some of these things. They need to be done at a facility level. So it will be at your facility level. Usually the person who allocates the medication or the prescription to be co-signed is someone senior. You wouldn't usually give that permission to an EN to be able to specify that a medication has to be co-signed. But then if they have authority, the permission to administer medication, then they will be able to be the person that co-signs the medication. But the person that allocates that a medication must be co-signed here or on the med chart. That's 100% up to you as a facility who you're giving that permission to, because if they have permission to tick it to be co-signed, then obviously they have permission to remove it as well. And this can be allocated. I'll just show you guys as well, for those that don't know, on the medication chart also. So here's the endone. So if I have the permission, I can add or remove it here, so that when it's going to be administered, it must be co-signed once that's ticked. So that, is any of those due now? So as you can see, for those medications, when they're if they are allocated as co-signed, the person administering does not have the option to tick administered. They must tick co-sign, and then automatically the screen pops up for the second person to co-sign, and the system will identify that, you know, a different user, I can't co-sign my own medication, a different user has to put their username and password in for that medication to sign off as to be that it's been co-signed administered.
Hi Sharon, what about RN only? To be administered by RN only, will there be an option for that?
There's not at the moment. And so for co-signing, you mean to be the second person to sign?
No, sorry, not for co-sign, just a medication that can only be
so RN administered or RN prescribed?
RN administered.
Okay, no, we don't have that option. So some of that, you know, still falls down to your internal policies and clinical decision making. Yeah,
but this is not necessarily about internal policies, but about the Poisons Act.
Okay, so if you have ENs that you don't want to be able to give medications that aren't packed, you can certainly do that, because you only give them the right to administer packed medications. But if they've got authority to administer, so to sign off on a medication, they will be able to do that. So it's about, again, the staff understanding their scope of practice, and if the medication they're looking to administer is outside of their scope of practice, they shouldn't be administering it, essentially. So I hope that answers that one.
Yeah, well, it's more referring to in Tasmania, the Poisons Act is a little bit different to some of the other states where ENs are not authorized to support with safe medication. So whether there was an option to highlight that into onto the prescription.
Okay, so at the moment, no, and we have been given conformance by the Tasmanian government. So maybe you and I are catching up soon for your medication, so maybe we can discuss it further then.
That's great, thank you.
No worries. Any questions from anyone else? Even if it's not related to this topic, are there any medication questions that anyone has at the moment? No. That's great. So as you know, on the 18th of April, we're having the Q&A session. So if anybody has any questions or reiterate, please feel free to send them through to the LeCare generic email, so we know in advance what topics you would like to be covered in that session. Or again, please turn up on the day to fire away with any questions that you may have. That session will be run essentially by you guys, the clients, as an open session to answer any questions, big or large, that you may have that we may be able to demo for you or just give you an answer for on the day related to any topic in LeCare. And yes, please, if anyone's interested in having the default tool uploaded into your system, this can be done quite quickly. So just reach out, like I said, to help desk or myself, and we can have a look at organising that for you. So that's beneficial 100% to ENRMC clients, but it also is beneficial to your GP direct entry clients because it will help add some defaults to them as well. So yeah, please have think and reach out. If you'd like me to send you the list of 2,700 medications to review, I'm happy to do so, and then you can have internal discussions about that. All right. Well, if there's nothing further, we may end it there, Greg. Last calls for any questions? No worries. Thanks, Kylie.
All right. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right, we'll leave it there. And hope to hear from you soon. I really hope people do reach out about the default upload. And otherwise, we'll see you all next week at Immersion.
Thanks, Sharon.
Bye,
No
guys.
worries. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.